I am Larry O'Connor, alongside Brian Wilson.
And joining us now on the line is author, conservative commentator Mark Steyn. Mark, so good to have you here on this morning. We got questions. We want to know what you think about them. Help us out here, okay?
I'll do my best. Name
All right.
a bridge after me.
or a stadium or something. Okay. Here's the thing. We got this Donald Trump guy who's running for the nomination on the Republican side of the equation. He comes out and says, I don't think that we should let any Muslims into the country. Now, he's clarified this morning that he's talking about a temporary ban on Muslims coming to this country while we try to figure out a way to decide who are the good Muslims and who are the bad Muslims that want to do us harm. But it's been roundly criticized. Does he have a point here, or is this beyond the pale, as some people have suggested?
Well, everything Donald Trump has said for the last 6 months has been beyond the pale, and the result is that he's moved the boundaries of the pale, and he is in the lead in Iowa and New Hampshire. So the Mexican rapists, the menstruating women, the prisoners of war shouldn't have got captured in the first place, everything he said has been beyond the pale, and it's all worked for him. Nothing he says, whether you agree or not, nothing he says doesn't work for him. And I think the reason for that is that he looks on this like a businessman. If you're a businessman, your opening bid is you say, I want $6 million and the freehold to your waterfront property. And in the end, you may settle for $5 million and the leaseholds to the waterfront property. That's the opposite of politics.
Right.
In politics is you're opposed to abortion, but your focus group says, don't say that because then people will think you're anti-women. So just say, maybe we shouldn't have partial birth abortion. Let's start with that. Trump is doing this in business terms, and he's been very successful, and he's moved the meter of the conversation. And the fact is that what he says isn't as nutty as what the President of the United States and his Attorney General said in response to the slaughter in San Bernardino.
Yeah. That
somehow the problem is American bigotry and American racism and American Islamophobia and American gun laws. And normal people understand that around the world, every day of the week, an Air France flight to San Francisco, from Paris to San Francisco, diverted this morning to Montreal because someone supposedly got a touch of the Allahu Akbars up there, so it had to be diverted. Happened on a Lufthansa flight out of Frankfurt. Some guy said he wanted to join Allah yesterday. So maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe if you've got an extra half day to, instead of taking a few hours to fly from Paris to San Francisco, if you've got an overnight to spend being diverted to Montreal, maybe it doesn't matter. But normal people see that there is an issue here and that the president and other Western leaders are in cloud cuckoo land on it.
Mark Steyn, you're sort of already walking down the path I wanted to go with this next question. Your book, America Alone, by the way, it was a game changer. It continues to be. It needs to be must-read book for anybody because you projected, when did you write this, 9 years ago? You projected exactly what we're seeing in Europe right now. And a big part of the book, talking about the demographic changes and the influx of Muslim refugees and immigrants into Europe, you talk about the feckless and completely out-of-touch leadership in Europe. Well, you mentioned the president's response to this terrorist attack in San Bernardino when every American knew exactly what was going on there. He looked completely clueless, spent his time lecturing us. Isn't Donald Trump in a way responding to that lack of leadership and, frankly, the lack of leadership in the Republican Party, who has been denying the Republican voters any kind of real immigration reform or immigration enforcement? They keep telling us, vote for us, and we'll enforce the laws and we'll build the wall, but they've lied to us. They haven't done what we've told them to. So Donald Trump is saying, you know what, I'll do finally what they said to do. And the electorate, they want that, don't they?
Yeah, I think that is true. I mean, I think realistically, for large swathes of this country, there is the American dream is, in Trump's words, dead. That's to say, there is a lack of economic mobility here. If you're born into the bottom 20% in the United States, you've got a greater chance of being stuck there than in almost any other Western nation now. That's not how it used to be. The point used to be that anyone could grow up to be president. Now we only have Harvard-Yale presidents since Reagan. That's all it is. Harvard-Yale, Yale-Harvard, Harvard-Yale, Yale-Harvard. And as a result, this is the brokest nation in the history of brokenness. So that's worked out great. There's no economic mobility if you're born in the bottom 20%. There's less economic mobility in the United Kingdom. So if you're born in some hideous council flat in the slums of Glasgow, you've got more chance of making it to Downton Abbey than you have if you're born in the bottom 20% in the United States. And most people see that bringing in large numbers of self-segregating immigrant communities is actually only making things worse for them and destroying their economic future and their cultural and in a sense the broader cultural society even more. So Jeb Bush, it's not just it's the Democrats and 2/3 of the Republican Party, because Jeb Bush until Trump came along was all about how illegal immigration is an act of love. You know, that's not. Yeah. That was an involuntary act of lovemaking on the part of the American recipient, and there's a 4-letter word for what most people think that Jeb Bush's act of love is.
Yeah.
But what about the Syrian refugees? I mean, that's a difficult question because, you know, there is a real problem for many people who are trying to get out of that war-torn area, and we're trying to decide what we're going to do. And many people believe we need to have some restrictions on them. So talk about that particular problem. Again, it comes down to how do we figure out who are the good refugees and who are the people who are posing as refugees who just want to come here, as we have heard, to take advantage and to hurt us.
Well, I was in Sweden a few weeks ago, which has been overwhelmed by these so-called refugees to the point where they're now having to warehouse them in a Wild West theme park, which is like the Disney World of Sweden, but they've now had to take out all the Billy the Kid type characters and give all their Western saloons over to house these so-called refugees. So I was walking through Malmö station where hundreds and hundreds and hundreds arrive in this one Swedish town every day. Everybody's stepping over them at the station. I can tell you what I saw. 80% of them are young men. So all the young men have fled a so-called civil war and left the grannies and the children and the women behind. Now, when you see that, as I said, 80% young men, that's actually the UN calculation of the percentage. They're the people who should be back in Syria fighting for their country. It's as ridiculous as if during the Revolutionary War, all the General Washington and all the fit, strapping young men had got the hell out of there and gone to the Caribbean until things calmed down, leaving Martha Washington and all the old people and kids to take on the British. It's completely preposterous.
Mark Steyn, this stuff is too good and too critical at this time. Can you stay with it? We just got to take a quick look at the horrible traffic here in Washington, D.C., and we'd love to continue with you. And we got to listen to your new album. Listen to this.
I've come to watch your flowers grow, and ain't you got no rhymes for me?
You know what?
I'm a feline groovy.
Mark Steyn is my hero.
Feline Groovy.
A Feline Groovy. We will talk about his new album, Feline Groovy, and other. I'm worried about the cat affiliation, but other issues that are in the news with Mark Steyn. Please, Mark, stay with us. It's 8:15 WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives with Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Oh yes, we're hitting the road in Feline Groovy. Here we go in the outer loop of the Beltway, heading from 270 into Virginia with the crash before you get to River Road. So this jams 270. Also, the Beltway starting to slow back to Old Georgetown Road. We have our topside delays with us through College Park and Silver Spring. Also 29 and 95 just to join in to those backups. If you're coming off of 70, 32, we have those normal delays into Clarksville. On Route 7 VA, the crash eastbound 7 at Beulah. That was causing extra delays this morning. And now the 105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL Weather Channel forecast.
Sunny with a high of 54 degrees today. Tonight, a few clouds, low of 39. And tomorrow, we'll have a mix of clouds in the morning and then mostly cloudy later in the day with high of 57. Right now, 42, 817 on WMAL.
Everybody wants to be a cat.
Oh, come on.
Because a cat's the only cat
Mark.
who knows where it's at.
Mark, we loved your Christmas song, but
You got to tell us, why did you record an album of cat music?
it's called Feline Groovy, Songs for Swingin' Cats, and you're talking about the four-legged kind?
Yeah, I acquired a new cat last year, and a very far friendlier cat than most cats I've ever had. So when I get up in the morning, he's like always nuzzling around my feet as I walk downstairs, which is actually quite life-endangering.
He's trying to hurt you.
Well, no, he's not. He's being friendly, but he may just cause my death.
That's what they want you to believe, Mark. That's what they want you to believe.
We worry that cats have an agenda, and it's not always in line with we humans, Mark.
No, that's true. But look, I think there's enough hatred, and as the president said, you Americans are bigoted and hateful enough as it is. The last thing you need to do is add feline phobia to all your Islamophobia and all the rest of it. Frankly,
it is. It's the plague.
Thing you need.
That's not who we are, Mark.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, and if you don't buy my cat album, the terrorists will have won.
All right.
I just started singing to the cat, and I just started singing cat songs. And by the time I was sort of absent-mindedly doing it, I thought, there are actually rather a lot of good cat songs. So I figured I might as well actually put them all together and put them on an album. And it's not something that people do a lot of. I mean, Miley Cyrus hasn't got a cat album.
No.
And,
True.
nor Justin Bieber. So it's an uncompetitive field, which in my case always helps.
You have cornered the market.
You've found a niche there, Mark.
Yeah, all right.
That's
listen,
right.
I also
it's got
noticed.
its own category at the Grammys, so I'm modestly hopeful.
I also noticed, Mark, that you are scheduled to testify up on Capitol Hill during a hearing that's going to be, if I have this right, chaired by Senator Ted Cruz, and the topic is climate change.
Yeah, I'm joining, I think, 4 scientists, or 3 scientists and a Democrat witness. I'm not quite sure what his qualifications are, but we will be talking about, it's called Data or Dogma, and basically it's about whether the kind of ideological climate science that we see in Paris at the moment is actually overwhelming real science. So I think I find it disturbing that pro-climate change types are now calling for criminal charges to be brought against deniers and all this kind of thing. And they're actually, it's unprecedented, this idea of science that wants to prosecute and jail people who disagree with it. It's just something unprecedented in the world of science.
Well, that's today at 3 p.m., and this is sort of C-SPAN must-watch TV. Are all 4 of you? I've got the names of the other people. Dr. John Christie, professor of atmospheric science, Dr. Judith Curry, chair of the School of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences, and then Dr. William Harper, the Cyrus Fogg Brackett professor of physics. Are they all in favor of the research into climate change and believers in climate change? No,
there's some famous, Judith Curry and John Christie are famous climate dissidents.
Okay.
But they are actual climate scientists. I'm not a climate scientist, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express.
Well, but you'll be blowing apart the dogma. And I mean, listen, you aren't a climate scientist, but I've read your stuff on this, and you are so good at breaking down their arguments and showing us the obfuscation that they build into their statistics. Is that
well, no, and if you look at Judith Curry and John Christie, for example, were targeted by that Arizona congressman earlier this year, who wrote to them demanding, for example, to know what travel expenses Judith Curry had for all her speaking engagements over the last 9 years. I mean, so we have thuggish congressmen and thuggish senators basically trying to destroy the lives of scientists by basically totally abusing their powers. And so it requires quite a bit of courage to actually stand up to these thugs. And that's why sometimes you need a cat album vocalist who's got no skin in the game to come and join in on your side.
Well, author, columnist, semi-regular radio host, and bon vivant cat vocalist, Mark Steyn. What a pleasure to have you. Welcome to the nation's capital. I know that it's not always your favorite place to visit, but when you're here, we're honored to have you. Thanks for being here, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Brad.